Okay, good evening. I'm going to call the New London Board of Selectmen to order. It's Thursday, March 21st. And the first item it would be, I move to allow Selectman Casey to participate remotely pursuant to RSA 91-A:2, 3, as she is currently out of state and unable to attend in person. Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
All of us in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, Phoebe, you're good.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any public comments? Anything that is not on our agenda? Rich?
Thank you. Rich Epstein, President. Do you hear me well?
Yes.
So I have questions and concerns on what was stated in the March 7th meeting, along with the February 27th meeting with regard to the claimed agendas of the town and the water precinct. I'll start off by attesting to the selectmen's attendance at the water precinct meeting, since I'm always there. And they do an excellent job at conveying the information from the precinct meetings back to the selectmen meetings and other meetings. I also agree there is not a water crisis, but nobody has claimed and nobody has implied we have a water crisis. I'm happy to, provide, if anybody I haven't heard mentioned in any meetings was outside of meetings of any claims or implications of a water crisis. So even though I was there, I listened to the recordings of both the February 27th and the March 7th meeting multiple times. On the February 27th, the discussion was in the context of the police station. Given the high rate of inflation and even a higher rate of our town taxes increase, people are concerned about large costly expenditures. So the large costs of potential water projects are very important and pertinent when we have to weigh in on the very big decision of the police station and the ramifications of its costs. Meanwhile, the statements made during the March 7th meeting that I understood to be for clarification pertain to housing. Again, somehow the 27th was out about the police station, March 7th was out pertaining to housing. So I guess I'm assuming the belief is the agenda applies to both, I'll assume. Certainly the town supports workforce housing and elderly housing. And yes, the two large building projects hit the water issue. It was indicated, as was indicated, the Department of Environmental Services, the experts in this area, have assessed that based on our existing water source, the precinct would not be able to support all the water requirements of the projects. They would be able to handle fire protection. So arguably the precinct is just the messenger. There is, calling it an agenda just doesn't apply. What was also very concerning about the statements on February 27th was that residents were told not to bring up the water issue, that they were blowing it way out of proportion, that people were using it as an excuse, but there was never, but there wasn't any explanation for why the residents' statements warranted such responses. In my opinion, we should stick with the merits of the argument and any data and facts that support the different sides of an argument instead of how it was expressed on February 27th. I would encourage everybody to listen to the recordings of these two meetings and get your own perspective if it helps. Going 17 minutes into the February 27th meeting is the pertinent area. And I think it's 59 minutes into the March 7th meeting. Any questions or comments?
I really don't know what you're talking about, Rich. I'm not sure I understand your point.
I think Janet, at the last meeting, which I think was March 7th, that Rich is referring to, I at the end, you may recall, read a statement that I had that I wanted to summarize, and I did so because I felt that at several previous public meetings, I don't know whether there are meetings or not, there were people that were, for various issues, holding out the fact that we needed to save large amounts of money in our future expenditures because we were going to have to do something about getting more water in town. And my point on the 7th was that both Continuum and Twin Pines were able to find water on their own. Other developers should be able to do so also, and that the water precinct has continued to indicate, as Rich just said, that we have adequate water for existing customers. So there's not a crisis either because of big developers or small ones. And I think what made me want to make that statement I did on the 7th was simply the fact that at a number of meetings, numbers of tens and 20s of millions of dollars were being thrown around like we had to stop everything else we did in town in order to find more water somewhere.
Is that what you're referring to?
Well, that was the March 7th. I was also,
Okay.
the topic came up on the February 27th meeting.
Okay.
And saying that those numbers were thrown around, those numbers were stated, like those numbers even come from the engineering companies that the precinct work with to estimate what it would cost. So those, they weren't thrown around. Those, again, came from the experts in the area.
Okay, I think obviously there are a number of issues that are facing communities all over the country. And I'm sure water is one of them, and where you get it, and clean, usable water. So, I mean, we don't know how soon it will be that we can no longer use the wells out of Colby Point. And when that time comes, we'll address it, but in conjunction with the water precinct, but they haven't said to us, hey, we need to do this in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. So I guess my point is, why should we agonize over something that may or may not happen anytime in the near future?
So, I mean, they've already started the process for pursuing another water source. They're in the second phase. From the time the Colby Point was put in, the state from that point was already saying we should put in another water source because you don't want to have a single point of failure. In addition, we are actually, the amount of water produced at Colby Point is gradually reducing. So yes, we don't have a water crisis, but it's important to address it. It's going to cost a lot of money. And that's why people bring it up. And people should not be told not to bring it up, that they are blowing it way out of proportion and that they were using it as an excuse. Those are valid points that residents can bring up without being told otherwise.
All right, Rich, you made your point. We are well aware of the water situation. And I think people who are interested in a build out number should ask the water precinct, what is the build out number? They should have that. So we cannot tell them what they should or should not do because they're a municipality and we have no control over them. So if you have issues like this with them, I think that the best thing to do is to bring them up at their meeting.
I don't know. My issues with the water are being stated here, not issues with the water precinct. I'm only pointing out that these are very large costs that are
Yeah,
potentially coming in the next 5 to 10 years.
they are. You're right.
And when you're looking at those costs, that's an important thing residents should know about. We don't want to prevent residents from knowing about the pertinent information for when they come and have to vote on these very important issues.
I think they're going to be well aware of that issue.
Well, not if it's repressed, not if they're told not to.
Have
bring
we
these
ever
things forward.
said that you can't address as an issue, anything?
They was very explicitly said that people should not bring up the water issue during the February
All right.
27th.
Well, you made your point. We've heard it, and there aren't many people here to hear what you had to say, but hopefully they'll read the minutes of this meeting or watch the video. That's all we can do. You know, our meetings are open to the public. So
Okay,
thank
thank
you.
you very much.
thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else who wants to make a comment? John?
In the, this summer, if there's some college students that would like to be involved.
Video, please.
Oh, I'm John Ellis. if there's students at Colby that would like to intern, I wrote an email to Kim about this. Do they need to get approval from you for interning with us, or can I work directly with Kim for students that are interested in interning in the town?
Internships are controlled by the college because they're educational experiences. So if the college would like to have some internships with the town, I'm certainly happy to talk with them
Okay,
directly. What we would do is look to see what program they wanted the student to participate in. And then
Okay.
I would contact whichever department head it would be to see if they had the ability to work with an intern, because there's work both on the student's part and on
Right.
the employer's part.
right.
So sure, the town works with Colby Sawyer very well, and they know how to contact me, and I talk to many of their people, so they would be in contact with me.
Right.
I would recommend a student who is interested should go to the internship person at the college, and
Right.
that person would contact me.
Right. No, I was aware of that. I just, asked questions by students, the process, and I didn't know whether we have to come before the selectmen for approval. But now I know I can come directly to you. And
Yeah, it
if
wouldn't be
there's an
you, John.
interest,
It would be the college that would come. to
no, I
me.
understand that.
Yeah.
I know that.
Thanks, John. Okay, does anyone else wish to make a comment that that is not on our agenda? Okay, if not, one of the items that we've been talking about for a while is the formation of a committee to advise the selectmen on mobility issues such as sidewalks, bike paths, crosswalks, parking, and public transportation. The suggestion for a committee is to investigate the town's needs for sidewalks, bike paths, crosswalks, and other mobility enhancements was made some months ago. The selectmen were in agreement with the suggestion, and we are now ready to begin the discussion of forming the committee, including how many members we will want to appoint, what we expect the committees to focus on, and so forth. Russ Moore, who is very active in enhancing opportunities for bike riders to have safe places to ride and to remind motorists of the need to keep a safe distance from bikers, is interested in being part of this committee. You may recall that Russ was instrumental, along with the New London Police Department and Public Works Department, to have the signs you see around town reminding motorists to keep a safe distance from bikes. Tonight, we will start the discussion what this new committee will look like. How many members will it have? What we will call the committee? What will the charge of the committee be? And so why don't we start with the name of this committee? So Russ, would you like to address that?
Yes, Russ Moore, Chair of the Bike Walk Coalition. I think there's broad agreement about the span of activity for the committee, which you've summarized, dealing with sidewalks, dealing with bike paths, dealing with public transportation. So I think we want a name that would sort of reflect that broader scope of activity.
Okay.
Most of the towns in New Hampshire that have these types of advisory committees, and there are over 12 towns that have these advisory committees that are composed of town officials and residents of the town. They are typically entitled the Bike Pedestrian Advisory Committee or something of that character. And Kim and I have had a few emails back and forth, and I know that the survey that was done for the master plan asked the question of what would you prioritize in terms of areas of work for the town or improvements in the town? And I believe that the responses were increased mobility, which could be interpreted many ways, obviously, because mobility is used in the sort of physically challenged community to mean like access to buildings, access to streets. So in terms of the name, my preference would be to be in conformity with many other town committee names, just because when we interact with them, if we choose to, we're going to be sort of readily identified by our name. But I don't feel that this is an issue that is a deal breaker by any means in terms of, whether we refer to it as one name or the other name. But just in terms of a little background, and please clarify this to the group, but there was concern about the condition of the sidewalks and the the entire scope of the sidewalks in town. And that discussion happened, I believe, in the budget committee. And BB had brought to the Board of Selectmen the idea of a sidewalk committee. So after some discussion, we've agreed that we're going to broaden the mandate to talk about sort of bike and walk access and safety in town, and develop specific and actionable items for improvements. So I don't know if that's helpful in terms of the name, but.
Okay. Bill, do you have any comments? BB, do you have any comments?
Yep, I do. I took some time today after seeing Russ's email about the name of the committee and Googled around the state, and I do see that there are many different towns and cities that do have it's a subcommittee of a transportation committee or something along those lines, and they are all seem to be called bike and pedestrian advisory committees. And their mission statements are all very similar to the document draft that Kim sent out to us today. So, and I know that Russ is working hard on this at a state level. So I would be fine with keeping the name of the committee, Bike and Pedestrian, even Bike and Pedestrian Transportation Advisory Committee, something along those lines, to make it uniform so that when we, because I have volunteered to be the selectman connected with this committee, when we're talking with other people around the state, we're using the same common language. So that's my feeling.
Okay, well, I think that we should all consider how many members we'd like on the committee, and some suggestions of who should be on the committee. And Russ has given us a number of people who are interested, and perhaps we could hammer this out at our next meeting. Does that seem reasonable? Bill?
I think it does. I have a strong bias, however, that we keep the committee small, because I think it becomes unwieldy to have large groups of people. Some make one meeting, some don't make the next. I don't think we need to have town employees be on the committee. That they have their jobs and they will come and go as needed. I've had this wonderful experience with the Waste Reduction Committee over the last 18 or more months, I guess, and it's just worked marvelously well because of the certain amount of informality that is there. I mean, there's very clearly very copious minutes that are kept and so on, but the membership has fluctuated a little bit depending on the interests of people and the town people who might need to be involved, particularly in this case Bob Harrington, come and go, but they don't have a seat at the committee and vote and that sort of thing. So I'm hoping that that model, which we created, I guess it was 2 years ago when I first got back on the board, and we were trying to figure out what to do with the old waste. I don't remember what we called it then when we looked at
Solid waste. Yeah.
the building and so on. It's morphed into being a very effective, I think, citizen-driven committee that, as I'll report on today's meeting, at the end of this meeting, has been very effective in getting things done by not having too much formality about it. So that's a bias I have.
Yeah, and I would just raise one other point. Bill touched on it. I really don't want to see members of this committee spending a lot of time asking department heads for their input. We've seen that when too much time is taken from their jobs with regard to like Public Works, Kim, police, fire, they all need to have input, but they shouldn't be asked to spend more time than is necessary with a committee. So that would be my only reservation. Go ahead, Russ.
Can I say one other thing, Russ, before you go? In all of your documents and so on, what I haven't ever seen is reference to conservation, and a lot of what I assume in terms of mobility we're talking about here is the ability to use our wonderful path network here in town, and that's their responsibility. So
Right.
I hope that in sort of the planning for this, that we won't eliminate the fact that we have a lot of ways for people to be mobile at this town that aren't paved at this point.
Go ahead.
As far as the size of the committee goes, the only thing I'd say is, I suggest considering 8 people because at any one time, given people's schedules and conflicts, we might get 5 people around the table, and 5 is a workable number. One point that Bill made is we should really include younger people. That means people who have young children, but also young adults in the group. I think that's important that they have a voice because they obviously are going to be utilizing a lot of this network. As far as the trails go, I had actually developed a draft of a sort of vision of our town that would tie many of the trailheads to bike lanes and to pedestrian pathways. I mean, that's sort of the vision I see, where people could use different modes of transportation to fully utilize all the recreational opportunities in town. I do think it's important, and as far as other committees go in other towns, there is a dialogue between town officials and committee members at the meeting. Sometimes they bring in someone who has engineering expertise to talk about specific projects. I think the kinds of things we're talking about have a certain complexity to them in terms of it's not just transportation has sort of engineering, regulatory, legal environment, and we want to get community input no matter what we're proposing or suggesting. So, I mean, that's what I would suggest as the size of the group, 8 people, and maybe we can reach a compromise where we could invite a town like Bob Harrington or somebody for a specific agenda item, or, if we're talking about sidewalks or things like that, by invitation. And obviously we would consult with Kim in terms of, probably tomorrow is not a good day for Bob to have a meeting if there's going to be 12 inches of snow. But
Right.
and I'm aware of that. He's aware of that. We have a good working relationship, but those are just suggestions I have. Yeah. I don't know if anyone else wants to
Russ,
make.
can I ask, do you have a sort of in mind, a timeline for the activities of this committee? Do you have a goal at this point that you want something to happen in a certain period of time? When you start talking about engineers and legal people and so on, I start to think, here comes a big proposal for the next town meeting to spend a big warrant article to spend a lot of money. Is that on your mind?
No, all I'm saying is if we are looking at any kind of project, for example, I had developed a draft of the downtown business bike loop, which does not involve a lot of infrastructure changes, but it would mean some traffic slowing mechanisms, some signage. You still have to look at, the physical environment of any project to see what obstacles or barriers you might have. I don't have in mind a major infrastructure project this time, nor do I have like a specific agenda that I'm trying to push. But I'm just saying that in looking at the minutes and the operations of these other committees, if you were going to do any kind of project that involved sharing the road, as you might say, you do have to look at a project from various different perspectives in order to sort of get agreement and move ahead.
Yeah, I guess it's important to note, Russ, that once the work starts on the sewer lines and I'm sorry, the water lines, I always get those confused. The water lines, that it's going to take 270 days to do this. And it's going to tear up Main Street. And then I think it's going to impact whether people are going to go down Main Street, even though it's one lane.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll take Barrett Road. So I think we have to think about the impact, not just on Main Street, but side streets. And that's going to take, 270 days. And then when we do the sidewalks, that's going to take another year. So I don't know, it's going to be a couple of years before the town is really back to normal with regard to sidewalks and roadways and that sort of thing. And I'm sure you're thinking about that a little bit.
Yeah, I actually talked to Bob Harrington about that a little bit, and I understand that as far as Main Street goes, we're not going to be able to come up with a comprehensive, initiative around that until literally that project's over. So I am aware of that. So yeah, we won't be talking. I mean, I obviously will be only one voice on the committee, but we're not talking about making major changes to Main Street in the short term. I don't think that's reasonable.
Right, yeah, okay. All
Yeah.
right.
I
Bibi?
was just gonna say, I would like to see the conversations in this committee being more long-term.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll think about this and make some recommendations at our next meeting, if that's okay with you. And obviously, there's no rush because of the potential of Main Street being torn up.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, I'm fine with just the discussion, but I thought that we were actually going to vote on just the formation of the committee tonight, that the Board of Selectmen would vote for the,
Oh,
in regard to actually forming the committee and then talk about the composition next time.
are you good with that?
BB, you're a driving force here.
Yeah.
I was thinking we were going to wait till the next meeting when you are back here and so on, but if you have a specific thoughts in mind, don't we?
No, I'm fine. It's up to you guys. I'm fine with voting on it now and getting the ball rolling.
And again, it's at your discretion, but I did
Yeah.
prepare some brief language.
Okay, do we have that? That's what, you already have that, right, Russ?
That language is fine. I prepared something that I thought was just a little more simple and straightforward, but we can go with what you have.
Okay. You want to read what you have, Russ,
Yeah,
please?
then you can choose.
Okay. Because I don't think I have that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I propose that an advisory committee be formed by the vote of the Board of Selectmen, Town of New London, to assess biking and walking access and safety. And to make specific and actionable recommendations to the Board of Selectmen and other appropriate committees to improve active transportation.
Okay, now that whole thing, BB, does not have the word sidewalk in it, which was your initial motivation, which I certainly
Mhm.
thought was important. So
I'd say walking access, but I could say pedestrian access if you prefer.
well, it's more than that. I mean, the sidewalks are also for other mobility methods. So, we have people in town who rely on wheelchairs and walkers and so I don't, BB, I'm looking at you. You probably aren't looking at us.
No, I know. I'm looking at my other monitor because I'm trying to look at other language that I hear what you're saying, Bill.
Oh, I mean, I just heard
I guess-
bike come out as the number one item there.
I said
Right.
to assess biking and walking access and safety. So, but I'm flexible on the language.
Okay, so why don't we then wait until the next meeting and then I can, Russ, if you can send me that, what you wrote, and then you and I can work up until the next meeting.
I think that would be healthy.
Okay, yep,
Get you back here. Russ
no
has made some-
problem.
Russ has made some good points tonight.
Yes,
I-
okay,
Yeah.
sounds like a plan.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, okay. We promise we'll do it next time. How's that?
Yeah.
All right.
Want to do it
Thanks,
right.
Russ. Yeah, that's it. We definitely want to do it. Okay. All right. Now we're gonna do town meeting recap. Michael, do you want to come up front and sit with us, please?
Just this once.
And Will? Will, you should maybe join him. Okay. So I guess I'll lead this off. I was happy, very happy with the turnout at town meeting last week. We had 398 voters present, which was more than last year. And I was gratified in the support shown to the selectmen with the defeat of Article 4 that would have stopped us from continuing to investigate options for the police station. We now must turn our attention to getting the information needed so that voters can make informed decisions on what we will do about the police station. Even the people who are in favor of keeping the police station where it is understand that the current facility is not adequate. The work we will do now with the assistance of Collier's project leaders will help us to understand our options. But before we talk about the police station project, let's talk about what worked well at town meeting, what we might want to change for town meeting in the future for 2025. Michael, do you have some comments?
Everything worked well.
Okay.
I mean, I'm open to hear suggestions for things that could use improvement,
Yeah.
but overall, I thought we did a great job.
Yeah, I did. And I think I really thank Kim and you and Will and the staff for,
couldn't-
it was organized so well. And I know it takes a great deal to set that up. So
Well, I
thank
wanna-
you all.
I want to thank my crew, particularly our stenographer over here,
Right,
who
yeah.
I neglected to thank at town meeting and heard about it right away. She assisted with the setup of the hall as well.
Yeah,
And you're right, I could not run that meeting without my election volunteers because they do virtually everything else.
Okay.
They tally the votes, they organize it, they
Right,
hand out
yeah.
the materials, balloting materials for the people checking in. I thought we had an improvement by having 6 check-in books instead of 4.
Mhm.
Was able to move the line along fairly rapidly. And I think in
Okay.
order to increase that throughput, we're going to open the meeting at 6 next year and have a full hour for people to check in.
Oh, that's a good
think
idea.
that would-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would further alleviate the congestion. That suggestion was made. I think it's a good one.
Yeah.
I think we should do it.
I think one thing I might suggest, and I don't know whether legally you can or cannot do this, but I think I would just announce the winners of the different committees like budget, selectmen, anything that has a contest. I wouldn't mention the number. I just mentioned the winners. And I think that is it avoids embarrassment for people who didn't necessarily win. So I think that would be a nice thing to do. And I didn't know whether you had to read the numbers off, but if you don't, then I just leave it with the people who won.
Well, the results are posted on the website anyway.
Right, yeah.
I mean,
If anybody's curious.
just doing a
sure.
recap and remind those folks they need to see Will to get
Right.
sworn in. So yeah, that's, I like that suggestion. That's good.
Okay, and the other thing I would suggest is if you have been given a list of people who want to speak, and then after a number of people have spoken and they haven't stood up to speak because perhaps they heard what they were going to said, maybe not even bother to call on them.
I'm not sure I'm following you
Well-
with that, Janet. Run that by me again. It's late in the day.
Hey, yeah. There a number of people had said they wanted to address a certain article.
Right. I had received emails and paper slips from
Right,
people and made a
well-
list of those who wanted to be heard. Yes.
Well, toward the end of that discussion, after quite a few had spoken,
Yeah.
I think 1 or 2 had not stood up to speak, and you asked them if they still wanted to speak. And I think if they're not in line, if they're not standing at the mic, which I thought worked out really well, I just let it go then because
guess I did
obviously
as a
they
cur-
thought it'd been said.
I did as a courtesy.
Yeah, I know you
yeah.
did, but I just wonder if that is necessary.
All right. I will take that under advisement.
Okay.
Janet, and we will proceed accordingly.
All right. Phoebe, do you have any comments you want to make?
Well, seeing it was my first town meeting, I just wanted to thank everyone who, first of all, took the time to attend the meeting. I thought it was a great turnout. I thought the discourse was great. There was wonderful conversation. I believe we have a direction to move forward now with Colliers. And a big thank you to Michael and to Will and the ballot clerks and department heads and Kim and Lynn and Cara and everybody. And also a big thank you to all of the candidates who ran for offices, whether they won or not. Really appreciate their willingness and to serve the town.
Right. Yeah.
There was one comment suggested about possibly utilizing the poll pads for voter check-in at town meeting.
Mhm.
And that suggestion poses a couple of challenges, I think is the best way to put it. First of all, the devices have to be pre-programmed for each use. And what would be required is the poll pads that were used for the election up until late at night. We were still online, still utilizing those. They would have to be reprogrammed and be ready to go by the next day at 5 o'clock.
Oh, right.
And
yeah.
we're not sure how that, A, what that would cost, and B, if that's logistically feasible. We haven't really talked to the vendor.
Mhm.
So for now, I think we're going to continue with the paper alpha list books. We didn't give them a full checklist. We gave them the alpha list to check in the voters at town meeting.
Right.
And we had to tally it by hand.
Yeah.
And from the time, well, next year it'll be 6 p.m. From that time forward, those books are being used by voters arriving late. And all that time you're trying to add up what you added before and trying to get the tallies correct to give us at the stage a current total of how many people are in the hall when any paper vote is taken. Because we use that total to
Right.
check against the yes and no's added together.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we didn't have an instance where we had more, the tally of the yes plus no was greater than the people that checked in. That would be a problem.
Yeah.
But it's keeping that number current that is a challenge with a manual system. So we have to, we have to figure out what's going to cost us if we want to use poll pads and then put that number forth and see if you wanted us to do that.
Well, I think, oh, I'm sorry, Bibi, did you want to say something?
I was just gonna say quickly, and is that I thought that the 6 books helped a lot. I walked around a lot to see if the lines were going out the door, and they really weren't compared to last year. So my opinion, in the couple of times that I circulated, I thought the line was much better than last year.
I think that
That's
part of looking at next year is perhaps asking if we can use this room as well as the gym. If we have, I mean, it was full.
Yeah, we just looked
just-
at that actually, and this
Did you?
room has the
Okay.
capacity of 100 people.
Okay,
So that was not the number that I wanted to see on the wall.
yeah.
I think we need more than 100, but maybe we could use these two rooms
Maybe you
if
could
they've
add
got
those 2 rooms
TVs in there
together
or
if they're
something.
linked. I don't know what the nature of the audiovisual
Yeah.
capacity is in there.
But then we've got to think about more books, more people and,
Yeah, it's
checking them
another
in.
whole, it's another, it doubles everything.
It
Town
does.
town meeting next year will be a monster that we need to start planning for well in advance of what
Right.
we
And-
normally
yeah.
do. I
And in
think if the
addition-
police station's going to come, and that's going to be something that's.
In
gonna be
addition to
voted on.
that, of course, is the option of using Whipple as an additional space, provided we can link it with audio and video.
Hmm.
The capacity of that hall, I suspect, is a little bigger than this. My recollection is when we planned this to use this for elections and those 2 rooms too, the square footage was pretty compatible.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
I don't know why the number 175 sticks in my mind, but I
it
think
could.
Jay could tell us what it is.
It's
Yeah,
posted.
We only
It's
look at it
posted.
every time we walk into the room.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Bill, did you want to comment?
I second both what you and Bibi have said about the conduct of the meeting. Michael, it was a great and well run meeting. Despite that, I've had more than several people ask, why don't we have the meeting on Saturday morning like other towns do? Because of the issue of childcare for people who still have young children, older people who don't feel they can drive at night, particularly in the nice March weather that we have and so on. So I said, when we had an opportunity, I would ask you why we can't have our meeting on Saturday morning or sometime on Saturday.
I don't know. Nobody ever asked me that before. And we've just been in the habit ever since I've been the moderator. And as long as I can remember, it's
Right.
always been all day Tuesday and then Wednesday evening.
Right, so these are.
Other
people-
towns do it,
I know,
but it would take a referendum of some sort. We agreed to do a bifurcated town meeting
Mhm.
way back when, before I became the moderator,
Mhm.
and we just continued that tradition. But it took a vote of the people to decide that. To go from the 1-day town meeting
Mhm.
to bifurcate it and have 2 official voting day plus town meeting the next day. And I see Kim's nodding. Maybe she's got some input on this that I don't know, but it takes a referendum of the people to go from a 1-day show to a 2-day show. My guess is it would take another referendum to go from a Tuesday, Wednesday show to a Tuesday, Saturday show.
And it may not, it may be a multi-year process, but I do think there are people at both ends of the age
right.
spectrum who are saying it's really not convenient to be going out on a Wednesday night.
Understood. We can investigate
It's
that.
definitely worth looking into. I guess I would question, or maybe we do a poll somewhere or something to get a rough idea as to what people think, because my brother has 3 kids, and on a weekend, forget about it. Like, they've got sports, they've got everything that is
Oh, I know.
pre-programmed. So it doesn't, it may just shift the problem. to
It might
different
shift the
people.
problem, but I think it's at some point, we at least, I bring it up because I told people I'd bring it up because people with younger children, you know, that they're not doing sports yet, they need to go to bed. And older people who also need to go to bed, so.
Yeah, during the day would be great. The other obvious consideration that we did just talk about a little bit is numbers of people. Because if we get ourselves to a place where we have to bus people to Manchester to the SNHU arena, that's a whole different ballgame.
I would
also.
love to have the problem where we
Wouldn't
had
that be
so many
great?
people for town meeting that we'd have to solve it.
Okay. Any other comments? Bill? John? John, don't forget to identify yourself.
I'm John Ellis. I wanted to clarify, and maybe I misunderstood you, Janet. You had mentioned that those that had voted against looking at the existing police station were now in favor of looking at another place. Maybe I misunderstood your
No.
statement that you made, but
That's not what I said.
okay, and I apologize. What I wanted to clarify was at the meeting, my understanding is that Colliers is going to present both options for the people to determine what they wish or what they
That
desire.
is correct. Yes.
Is that still
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Give it to.
Rich Epstein, Rich Epstein, I think the meeting was run very well. My point I want to make is extremely minor, but as somebody who was in the stands in the back when the boxes were being sent around, it seemed pretty chaotic. I'm not sure if, you know, looking at other ways of doing it could be reconsidered. That's my only point.
Well, I can address that.
Okay.
It took a lot less time, as minorly chaotic as it might have seemed, but that may have been because I released everyone on recess before the vote had been completed. It's okay to recess people while the ballot clerks are counting the ballots, but it works better if you keep people seated when the boxes are being passed around. And this isn't something we get to practice, but only once a year. So we train the people the best we can, and we divide the hall in sections, and we give them a box, and we rubber band it, and we turn them loose. And it takes far less time with the shoebox method than it does to have multiple ballot boxes and have to have everybody get out of their seats and walk over to the ballot box and deposit them and then collect all of the ballots from those boxes and count them. The shoebox method was a stroke of genius. And I wish I could remember what town. It was a town north of here where the town moderator, and I used to know his name, he was a member of the bar, created that thing. And and Cotton, I think, when she was the town moderator, they first instituted it, and it was a stroke of genius because you could do a secret ballot vote in half the time. So I'm not saying that it was perfect, but we're working on it all the time. We're tweaking it. So if that's a good suggestion, we'll take it into account and just keep the people seated until the boxes are collected.
Russ?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I thought there was some really sharp difference of opinion, but overall people maintained civility and respect for each other. And I think Kim's opening remarks and Michael's facilitation helped that. Obviously, some of the issues were controversial and people had really sharp difference of opinion, but I thought that, you know, the overall tenor of the meeting was very positive.
Yeah, I think not having really sticking to looking at your watch all the time when someone was speaking, you know, if perhaps they went over 3 minutes or whatever it was, that was good. I think the way they lined up in order to speak was a good way to keep it organized and calm. So yeah, I think
Well,
overall it really went well.
As a point of observation, there wasn't but one or two speakers that barely encroached on the 3 minutes. 3 minutes is plenty of time to get your point across if you're organized and succinct.
Right.
And longer than that, people's eyes start glazing over and you've lost their attention. You've lost the capacity to make your point. So I really didn't have to. I was looking at the watch, but I wasn't really flagging. I was only one person I think I spoke to about time, and they promptly finished. But everybody else was well under the 3 minutes, and it just kept it moving. And I think Alf Jacobson, God rest his soul, would have been very pleased at the robust debate, the civil, robust debate that we had
Yeah.
before the vote was taken.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Absolutely. Okay, Peter, did you want to say something?
Peter Nichols, just quickly, I second, the meeting was very well run and excellent job. So I won't go into that any further, but it was terrific. Just a minor thought that occurred to me was when is perhaps, Michael, you could suggest that before and after a speaker speaks, that applause be withheld, because it's not a popularity contest and we want to encourage people to speak. And it's hard for some people to speak. It is not great for me. But if I were to make a statement or speak, and then when I sat down, the level of clapping would tell me whether I was accepted or not. It's not conducive to
Yeah.
being open the way we want to be. So a minor adjustment, just a thought, is to announce in advance after somebody speaks is please withhold the applause.
Good,
Well,
good
it is
point.
good idea.
Thanks.
It isn't a popularity contest, and yet in effect, it's popularity of ideas. So I mean, it is, it's a balance. I get it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
That's good.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, anyone else want to comment? Okay, well, Michael, thank you. Will, thank you.
You're welcome.
If you want to leave, you may. Or you can stay, whichever. Okay. Thanks, Michael. Okay, with regard to the police station project, I believe that we need to appoint a committee to work on this project so that the committee can assist us in the selection of a consultant who will be tasked with providing us with options. And my thought is that we each come up with 2 to 3 names of potential candidates for appointment, and then we can consider those candidates and possibly meet with them to make sure that we appoint people who have the time to devote to the committee and who are open-minded enough to consider all options. So I would ask Phoebe and Bill to do that. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You can do it too.
And I can do it too. Yeah. We have a proclamation for donate. Yep. It's Donate Life Month for April. So do I have a motion to support Donate Life Month? I don't have that motion, but do we have that? You just made it. Oh, okay, that was it. All right, do you want to second that?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, okay, roll call. BB, yes.
BB, yes.
Janet, yes.
Bill, yes.
Okay. All right, that motion is passed. Thank you. All right, and the next item is our election of the chair and committee assignments. So I move that we elect Bill Helm as chairman of the New London Board of Select Persons. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Now we need a roll call.
Roll call.
BB, yes.
Janet, yes.
Bill abstain.
Okay. Bill, you're now this chair.
Hand over the gavel.
I move. that-
I've asked Janet just to continue this evening, so that we don't have a fumbling around of chairs and
You're
so on here.
So I move that we elect BB Casey to the Budget Committee. Do I have a second?
Second,
All those in favor? Janet, yes?
Bill, yes.
Okay.
BB, yes, or abstain, whatever
All
way
right.
it works.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, I move that we elect Janet Kidder to be the selectman's representative to the planning board.
do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, all those in favor?
Bill, yes.
BB, yes.
And Janet abstain. Okay, so we're good. Let's see, what else do we need to do? Kim, you have a town administrator's report?
Schedule our meetings. We're gonna do that now. or
Oh,
at the
okay.
end?
Do you want to, you submitted all the meetings that,
Yep.
do we all agree with that? Was there any changes by anybody?
I
Yep.
think did we all agree on May, I think is the question.
Yes,
Are we
the
all settled on
May,
May?
yep, May, let me see what it was. May 1st, May 22nd, then June 12th. That's fine.
Good.
Okay, so May 22nd, May 1st and May 22nd, is that right?
Yep,
Not,
Yep.
not 29.
not, yeah, exactly. Take out May 15th and May 29th, and we'll do one meeting on May 22nd instead.
Okay,
And that works for your schedule.
Yep, that works for my schedule. Yep.
For the public's purpose, you may wonder why we've had some discussion ahead of time. We're trying to accommodate the fact that Dee Dee still has a job. And so we had to ask her some questions about her availability of her schedule.
So we're going with.
Thank
the
you.
20
And we
May.
have June,
And May 5th, what was it? May 15th that we said?
May 22nd.
May 26th. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Got
And
it.
we
then-
have, yep, June. What do you got for June, BB?
June 12th and
26.
yeah.
She's away.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'll be away on the 26th, but I can zoom in like this.
Great.
Yeah.
So June 6th, we have a meeting. Is that right?
Oh, June
June-
12th.
June 12th, June 26th.
Okay, I gotta write this down.
Yeah, you can, it's right here.
Yeah, I could.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's good. We're good.
Okay.
And I'd like to make sure that we put on the calendar now a tentative date to do process the budget from our perspective on
Yeah.
October 25th.
Okay.
Yep, that works.
If that works for Kim, for you and for the department heads.
Yep.
And I hope we'll get the budget committee to be present, participate a little bit.
Okay. And Bill, did you want to make a recommendation on the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting?
Yeah, I note that the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting in May falls at the same time and date as the Colby Sawyer graduation, and I think that's gets things a bit busy in the center of town at that point. So I would suggest that we have our meeting in April and then another one in June, and
Okay.
omit the one in May.
Oh, May. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We're good with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay,
You
Kim,
want
do
to
you-
talk about the summer gathering, or are you gonna wait on that?
let's wait on that
Okay.
until we know we've got something to talk about.
Okay.
All right. So Kim, do you have a
Yep.
administrator's report?
I have received from Bob Harrington, his retirement date. He has decided to retire from the town of New London after nearly 35 years of working with Public Works Department and 6 years as Public Works Director. I was surprised it was 6 years. Wow, time flies.
Yeah.
So he will be done at the end of July, so he's obviously working hard to get everything in order, and we all wish him well, so that's all I have.
Okay. Okay. Bill, do you have any meeting?
Yeah, I referenced earlier we had a waste reduction committee meeting this morning. I just want to highlight two things. First of all, in the first 3 months of this year, the town has composted 10 tons of goodies. So we're on track for maybe a 40-ton year. And while we don't get paid for that, that's a lot of tonnage that we're not putting into the landfill. And it's
Correct, yeah.
the citizens of the town that have participated in this should be congratulated for helping us. And I think at some point, the committee is going to begin to think about how we go to a wider audience in town and get more people involved. But we do have some restrictions from DES and other things that are going about how much compost we can keep on site at the transfer station. So we're not going to rush into to that. The other thing is Bob Harrington did join us for part of the meeting this morning and began to talk to us about some ideas he has on how we might deal with being able to begin recycling paper again. So that's
Oh, good.
stay tuned. And if you want more details, I recommend you go to the minutes of this morning's meeting.
Good.
Okay. I did attend the Water Precinct annual meeting, and they passed the bond for $4.5 million. They reported that it would take 270 days to lay the lines for water, not sewer. And they thought this would be about 50 cents on the tax rate. So they hope that it can be done within 270 days. So we'll see how that goes.
50 cents for those of us in the precinct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, not for the rest of the town, just those in precinct. Even though you may not be hooked up to water, you'll still pay it. Correct? All right. And first I want to thank Cara for the wonderful job she does on our minutes. Thank you. We appreciate your doing them. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 7th?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Bill, yes.
Janet,
Phoebe,
yes?
yes.
Okay.
I
Alright.
had two quick things, Janet, under committees.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just a quick update on Coalition Communities 2.0. The New Hampshire Supreme Court issued a stay pending the appeal on the Conval case only, which is the one increasing the cost per pupil from 4,100 to 7,300. It has not issued a stay on the Rand case, which is the one about excess SWEP funds. But the ruling on the Rand case was only a partial summary judgment. It hasn't gone to trial. Lawyers are anticipating that the Supreme Court will combine the two and they will hear them together. So that is still ongoing. And the only other thing, I got a great update today from Mike Morgan, who attended the Watershed Protection Tri-Town meeting this morning. And I can share the notes with you too. He gave some good insight on perhaps why the septic ordinance did not pass at Newbury's town meeting. And also Newbury Selectmen reversed their decision on only using drones for the 4th of July fireworks, which is kind of interesting. So that's all I've got.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Anything else? No?
Non-public.
Okay.
Okay. I move to enter in non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A:3 related to compensation of an employee related to and also related to hiring of an employee. Do I have a second for the motion?
I second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Bill, yes.
Janet, yes?
BBS.
Okay. So thank you all for coming.
We will come back into session at the end simply to sign documents.
Right.